Hi everybody, Eddie here. Going to do a market update. Haven't done one since the start of the year. So at the start of the year, talk about the projection for SPX, S&P 500, and Bitcoin mostly. So we're pretty well on the right path, and we're just heading into those levels now. So now we're going towards the end of the year, towards the election time. So usually during this time is actually quite bullish. The way that it usually happens leading to an election is usually a little corrective move before the election, and then a pump after the election. But it seems a little bit different this year. This year it looks like we're pumping into the election, so maybe after election we get a little pullback. So it's been a fairly bullish year. So we've been bullish ever since we came out of the bottom of 2023 from the bear market of 2022. So as you can see, we have gone pretty well almost in a parabolic state. So this is the last leg of a mega trend. So we have basically gone parabolic ever since the 2008 recession. So we're getting towards levels now where it's almost time for another recession. So all the signals already there. The last thing that we're looking for now is rise of unemployment. Once rise of unemployment happens, it's going to basically have a snowball effect and then trigger a recession afterwards, right? So we're start seeing signs of unemployment slightly going up, and usually it happens after an election if it is going to go up. So because towards the election time, the numbers are kind of whack. They keep making adjustments and revising their numbers on payroll and everything, as we seen in the past couple of months. So I don't really trust those numbers. We'll see what happens right after election. So anyway, uh as I say mentioned in earlier in the year, the uh, uh, the price target for the S&P 500 is somewhere between 6,200 and 6,500 or so. So we're pretty well heading towards that area now. So it's pretty well in the last leg. So in the next month or so, we could see that push into that 6,000 to 6,200 zone. Once it hits that level, we could see a little corrective move coming back down afterwards, right? And then we'll see what happens when it does come back down. So what I'm looking for now is we're going to run into 6,200. I'm going to see if we'll pull back, maybe do like a retest of the 50-period moving average, and then see if it's going to make a higher high or a lower high, right? So if it's going to make a lower high after it hits the target, it's very likely that we can start breaking down. So I did talk about like we could see the breakdown before the recession happens. So because the market is more as a leading indicator than the statistics. So if um if we run up and we start coming down, making that lower high, I suspect that we're going to have a fairly good sized corrective move. Because right now we're basically hitting towards that last wave up, and it is in a parabolic state. So this is a weekly chart, so you can see that we actually have a very sharp run up, and it's parabolic. There's very little pullback. We did get a little pullback in September as expected. So I mentioned last video that there could be good size pullback around September, October. So we did get that pullback early September this time around. Usually it's later part of September, but we actually got it in the early part of September, and we rallied pretty sharply after that, right? So we did make a trade out there for a move up, and then came back down, and then it bounced out to one. So we did have a little move up there. So it's been a fairly predictable market this year, and hoping that we get that last leg, hit that 6,200, and then finally get a corrective move coming back down. Um, so the last play, usually what happens is um, I look for where the money is going to flow into. So right now, tech is actually lagging the S&P 500, and we'll take a look at the charts a little bit later on. But the sectors that are moving actually, the S&P 500 right now is like financials, resources, consumers staples. It's the more value names actually going up versus the tech names, right? So we got like a big tech push early on in the year, but now I'm starting to see them actually start consolidating while the money's flowing back into the other sectors. Financial's been doing really good in the past month or two, so there's a lot of money flowing into that, and there's a lot of money flowing into gold as well. And gold's actually making parabolic move as well. So usually that's not a great sign. Whenever I see gold going parabolic, usually is something's up. Somebody's hedging. Either they know something or whatever. Something's going to happen. They're running for safety. So that's the only reason why gold ever shoots up that rapidly. So if you take a look at during 2008 after 2008 recession, when they start printing money, gold flies up, right? And then same after the 2018 correction, gold just went back up. So gold's been basting for a few years now, and finally breaking out. And we're hitting some of those highs. Hopefully it'll go to around that 3,000 target I have on gold. I don't usually touch gold. If I buy gold, I usually like to buy the physical gold and store it at the bank. But I don't usually touch gold stocks because they're for me it's just there's better opportunities elsewhere. So anyway, let's take a look at NDX. NDX, you can see that NDX did not make a new high, while the S&P 500 actually already made a new high there. So breaking the high right here. So S&P 500 has been rallying up while the tech is still kind of hovering around the highs. So the tech stocks are actually lagging everything else right now. So you can see that I actually mark here from the last update that we were going to rally back up and retest and then continuation up. So that's exactly what's happening right now. We're hitting some of those upper areas now. So if it cannot make a new high on the tech stocks, you really want to be careful what's going to happen next, because if it doesn't go any higher, usually it tends to break down, make a lower high, and actually start trending down instead. So and because we're going towards election time, a lot of things could happen. Usually, what I do is because we're going up right now, pre-election, most likely I will take some profits. If you have profits in swings, the only thing I am probably going to hold is Bitcoin. So because Bitcoin still haven't made its big breakout yet, so I'm still waiting for Bitcoin to break out, and we'll talk about Bitcoin in a bit. So right now, I'm mostly in Bitcoin. I only got a few MAG stocks. I got a little bit of Microsoft, Nvidia, and a little bit of Tesla, nibbling on Tesla as he pulls back. And right now, we're mostly in Bitcoin. I got quite a bit of TLT as well for interest rate play. And basically, right now, I'm just waiting for the market to kind of do his parabolic move. Once he makes his parabolic move, I'll probably do some short-term swing trades of some tech names and or maybe high growth names, wherever's money flowing into. And then once we hit that top and we start reversing back down, it's very likely I'm gonna go mostly cash and then see how it develops. As you can see here, I got two different scenarios on the S&P 500. And so if we do get reject on that 6,200 area and comes down and retests the area down here, and then if it bounces off here, makes a low high, that's a good chance that it's actually going to break down, right? If it's going to break down, we're going to first test the 200, and if it breaks the 200, we're going to go into recession, right? So we're going to go break down, retest, and then continuation down. And because we're in such a big parabolic move, if we do go into a recession, I think it could be a pretty severe one, right? So we could get back about 50% to 70% of the gains on the market from this trend up, right? So basically, we're going to go, if we're going to come back down, we could come back down and form somewhat of a head and shoulder pattern. So if we make that low high, we'll come down. We'll test the 200, it'll break the 200, and then we're going to retest, form a shoulder compared to this left shoulder right here. We're going to form right shoulder, and then if the neckline breaks down, we're going to go down to to pretty well the COVID lows, and that's probably where our bottom would be, is towards the COVID lows. And if that happens, let's measure the move from up here down. So if we go down to the COVID lows, that's about 65% drawdown, right? So if it actually goes a little bit further, it'll be about 70% if we go down to this area down here, the support down here, right? So between 60 to 70% drawdown, if we do get like a major corrective, if we go back into a recession or whatever. So um sometimes that top could take some time to form. So it could take like a few months up to a year, sometimes a little bit over a year. So if we say we hit that 6,200 towards December or the end of the year, and then we finally start getting our corrective move, that corrective move could last months, right? It could come down like maybe January, February, go up a little bit in March, April, and then around May, June, July, whatever, we start crashing down, and then it can form like a distribution, like almost a whack off distribution pattern somewhere up here as well. You could like go in that range back and forth, and you could not make any new highs. If you cannot make any new highs for a while, that's a pretty good sign that we could roll over, especially when the market is super extended in a parabolic state, right? So that will be one of the things I'll be looking for this year once we hit that top. I mean, all of these are just projections. I trade price action, so if I'm wrong, it doesn't matter because I'm going to basically just react on the price, right? So these are just kind of like projections going into the tops and have like a trading plan, right? So there's also a bullish scenario. Say if we do not go into a recession and we just hit like a corrective move, right? So we hit like towards that high and we get rejected and we come back and we test it to say 200 period moving average, like a 20, like a correction, 20, 25% drawdown. And then we bounce off that level, which it would be, if we're going to bounce, it's going to be somewhere around this high right here, right? Where we broke out from. So if we come back here and we start bouncing, we could see it go back and break this high 6,200 and go towards that 7,000, even up to like 7,800 area. And 7,800 would be the very extended move. And things like that can happen in pre-recession, is to go into a more parabolic state, and that would be a fairly good target. That would be a extended one. 1.618 on the fib extension of off the 2008 recession lows, right? And that would be a mega move if that happens. And it's I wouldn't take that off the books that we can run up that high. So if it does happen, then there's a good chance that if we bounce off here, we can hit those areas right here. So you got to have that trading plan. My trading plan would be, I'll be unloading around that 6,000, 6,200 area, and then I'll wait and see what happens right there. If it makes a corrective move and we bounce off the moving averages and we continue to go up, then obviously I'll go back in. I'll go back in later. I wouldn't be fully invested at this point, right? So I'll be maybe 50% invested and see what's going to happen. Maybe I just will day trade like we've been doing, just day trade the range and trade the price action instead of holding things overnight. Because once you get around this area right here, we're in extended moves. Things can change very quickly when it's up this high, and usually the market likes to go parabolic to suck all the retailers in first, and then the smart money will actually use the liquidity to unload their positions. So there's already been a lot of big investors, heavy investors like Warren Buffett, still already started unloading their positions, right? So you want to take that as a warning sign that we're towards the last bit of the cycle, of the bull cycle, right? So these cycles, they have small cycles, and then they have these major cycles. So this is more towards the end of a major cycle, because we haven't had really a recession since 2008. I mean, we had the COVID, and then we had the 2002 bear market. So COVID, I wouldn't really call COVID a recession. briefly went into recession. It's more of a pandemic, so it's like a black swan event. So that doesn't really count in my books, right? So and we really haven't had any bad like recessions. We just had bear market in which was 2022. We had like a bear market because we went very parabolic after the COVID lows. We went parabolic straight up. So we had a bear market as a corrective move, and then as you can see that we bounce off the weekly 200, and then we continue higher. Right? That was as expected because we were actually loading up in 2022 as we were coming down, and we pretty well caught like the first initial move on off the lows. But we're at that part now where the second wave, this wave right here of the 2022 lows is hitting towards the upper end of the full move. So if we hit the full extension, it's very likely we're going to give back about 50% of that move, which will take it down to around that breakout area. And then if it really goes down, then then we'll go into a bearish scenario where we can come down here, retest this 4,000 area. It might chop around between 4,000 and 5,000 to form like a right shoulder, and then it's going to break the neckline and basically crash down and go to the COVID lows, right? So I don't really expecting that happen till more towards like later part of 2025 or maybe 2026, depending how the price action works out. So I'll do an update probably later on in the year, maybe next year, to see how we're developing this scenario right now. So in my trading group, we're preparing to make a plan for this type of scenario towards the end of the cycle. We do have a lot invested in Bitcoin right now, but it could change sometime next year, right? If things change, we could actually start shorting stuff instead. So if you want to see what we're planning on doing, what we're doing, you can join our courses or Discord group to see what's going on. I usually do like a daily update on the markets every morning, and then day trade throughout the day. And then if we have swing trades, we do swing trade alerts as well. So um, anyway, yeah, so that's basically my trading plan right here. It's drawn out in this chart for the S&P 500, and this will be the chart I'll be mostly focusing on. The Nasdaq chart, I don't really focus on that much. I basically just use this to see if I want to continue investing in tech or not. That's pretty much it. The S&P 500 is it's a much better index to look at as the overall economy. Right, so let's take a look at Bitcoin. So I've been talking about Bitcoin for the longest time, since early January, I think, the market update that they went in March. So I drew these back in January. So how it's going to turn out. So look, it's happening exactly the way it should be happening, right? We form a cupping pattern. We got stacked. So this is where I first updated somewhere around right here. Told you that we're going to go higher. We're going to probably fill the cup. We fill the cup. We're forming the handle right now. So we've been back and forth for months now. Every single time I thought it was going to break out, he's coming right back down. So we've been in the Bitcoin trade for a while. We've been in and out of it, but I stay invested on about 50% of precision. Because the thing with Bitcoin is once it breaks out, there's no way you're going back in because once it breaks out, it's going to go parabolic, right? You try to chase it, and then if it pulls back on you, you end up with a loss. So the best thing you can do is when it's cheap, you accumulate, and then and when it pops, you unload some, but you keep some invested, and that's the way you have to trade Bitcoin, right? So I'm 50% invested now, maybe a little bit over 50%, maybe a little bit more towards that 70%, because I did got fake out on the breakout a few times now, so I added a little bit too early. But that's the thing with Bitcoin is I know you'll go higher in the cycles because Bitcoin has a 4-year cycle. If you don't understand how Bitcoin works, then you should do a little bit of research or join a group like us where we know the market cycles and know the Bitcoin cycles and get yourself prepared for the big move, right? So right now we're just about to break out. So if you look at this is the monthly chart. So you can see this. We're at the 8 period. We bounced off the 8 period. We tested tonal. We bounced off that, and we're now coming back up. So if you look into the daily, we're basically making a higher low towards towards the breakout point. So the breakout point will be the all-time high, which is around that 74,000 area. You can see that I have multiple alerts over here already. So I have a ton of alerts right around that 74,000 to get myself prepared for adding into a position, right? So if you want to know when to add, join our Discord group and find out, right? So right now we've been consolidated for basically a good half of the year. And we're finally getting restack and finally picking up momentum. And basically right now I'm looking for volume to break out. Once we see that volume breakout, I know that we're going to go. And once you start going, I expect this to go at least 100,000, probably around 120,000 on the lower end of the estimates. Higher estimates will be around that 300,000 area. So it really depends on what's going to happen, who's going to win the election. If Trump wins the election, I expect it to go way higher than 120,000. So we'll see, right? So I have this all drawn out here. Let me take this off. I have this drawn out here. So I have the fifth wave going up towards that 120,000 area. But of course, these areas can get extended. Once they get extended, they can go like way beyond that. So a lot of times what it does, you'll go beyond the target, but you'll come straight back down towards that area right afterwards. So when how Bitcoin works is it goes parabolic. Every cycle, you just go straight up. And we have a technique that we ride it and get out before it actually crashes. So we're going to prepare for the breakout, and then we're going to ride it up and see how far we'll go. I'm looking at minimum of 120,000. That's probably where I'm going to unload at least half of it, and then the other half we're going to ride and see where it's going to go after that. Right. And if you don't trade Bitcoin, you're missing out on some of the best gains in your trading career, because Bitcoin can go just insane. Like we went from 15,000 in this cycle low all the way up to 74,000, right? 15,000 to 74, right? And now we're just preparing for the last leg up, which can take us to about 120. So if you bought it at 15,000, you held, and you're gonna held it all the way up to say the 120,000 or 150,000, you almost 10x your money, right? And that happens every cycle. So just imagine what it'll be like. The only thing is we're in Bitcoin now that institutional money is getting involved. So Bitcoin could start getting more mature. When it gets more mature, we probably won't get like these 10 beggars anymore, maybe 5 beggars instead. So it's just a good time to start getting into Bitcoin. Even right now, like it's good time to get in. And even if like Bitcoin's known to get pump and dump, right? So even if you invest it now and we pump up, and then it start dumping, even if it dumps, we're probably going to end up around the same price what we're trading at right now, like we do every cycle. Whenever we come back down, we usually come back down to the breakout area, which is right now, that's what we're trading at right now, right around that breakout area, right? So if you think you're late to the game, you're not. It's still early. Bitcoin's still not mature instrument just yet. So there's still time to get into it, right? And or you can be like me, right? Put maybe 10% of it in a cold wallet or whatever, and then trade the rest. Just trade a cycle. Every cycle you trade up and down. So once this cycle is done, I might be able to short it all the way down, make some money on the way down, and then accumulate even more Bitcoin with the profits that from the shorting, right? So it's definitely an instrument you want to get familiar with, and it's definitely something you really want to trade when the cycle's getting ready for that cycle every 4 years, right? So that's pretty much it for my Bitcoin. I have some very key levels. So if maybe not this chart, maybe it was this one. Oh, yeah, this one right here. All right. So with Bitcoin, all the levels are right here. The levels up. So I like to trade them level per level, meaning that once you hit one level, I unload. on low, see what happens at that level, and then if it breaks out, we'll go load it back up, and then go into the next level, and then load it back up to the next level, right? So that's how I like to trade. It's called level per level I trade. So right now we're just basically waiting for that 74,000 breakout. So you can see this is very clear, like a very clear cup and handle pattern. And these are one of the best patterns to trade once it breaks out, because they tend to go fairly parabolic, as you can see right here in the last cycle in 2020. So if you want to go back to the last cycle in 2020, it kind of forms somewhat of an exact same type of pattern. It forms like a cup and handle right here. And then finally it broke out in, look at this, parabolic state, right? Parabolic. It took, how many months is that? One. Okay, this is the breakout candle right here. So here, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 months to form a top, and then you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months to kind of form the double top, right? So next year, I'm thinking we'll form our top, maybe some scenario like this, and form some top type of top and pattern before the big breakdown, right? So it's kind of like that with every cycle we trade. So in previous cycles, you can see right here another cup and handle type of thing. It broke out, went parabolic, gave it all back, form another cup, parabolic, gave it all back. Now we form another cup. It's gonna go parabolic and then give it all back, right? So that's basically the cycle. It happens every 4 years. Follow us if you want to trade more. Anyway, let's take a look at some of the other indexes. So this is small cap index, IWM. Let's look at the weekly instead. So you can see that it's been basing for a really long time. It's like 2 years of basing here, and it finally broke out the base, right? So we're heading towards the resistance zones. You can see here we have a lot of supply in this area, but once it breaks out this area, it can go pretty high. Once we break out this area right here, it can go parabolic really quickly. So if it does go parabolic, I'm expecting to go to around the 300 to 350 zone. So that's basically the target. And this is the small caps. So if this breaks out, you can actually start looking at all your favorite high growth names from 2020. I'm pretty sure they'll start taking off as well. So usually those areas, I do trade them. I don't trade them like I used to trade them, but I do trade them with a smaller size position, and then I do like to take my profits quite early on those now, because I know how fast they can give back the gains. So usually what I trade it small, and I aim for it small, so I get to I get to ride like maybe a third of the wave, or maybe half of the wave, and I don't go for the full bull cycle. So if I want to trade this, I might even just trade TNA, which is the leverage ETF of this index. So if it actually does go up to like 310, I expecting TNA to go like fivefold, tenfold, somewhere along there, because it's leverage, 3x leverage, that they tend to stack up. Once it gets above like a certain level, it's starting to stack up in returns. So. Let's take a look at the MAGS ETF. This is basically your large tech. As you can see that we're failing to make a new high, right? So you can see that this is showing weakness. That's the high right there. So it's showing signs of weakness compared to the rest of the market. So that's something you need to be careful with, because the big names is where everybody's monies is in. So um if like big funds start unloading these names, that could be the reason why it's not going any higher, right? So if they're start unloading and using you as the liquidity, then you keep buying, they keep selling. So that could be a hint that we're towards the end of the cycle as well. All right. Let's take a look at TLT. So TLT has been basing. It's still basing. I thought we finally going to go and broke that 100 level, but we got rejected right back down. So we're right back to POC, point of control. So right here, it's a good level to get into TLT. So if they start cutting interest rates rapidly, and this probably will be the case if we go into recession, then TLT could have some pretty major moves like we did in the last recession, right? And 2020 was a good example of how fast 2019, 2020, you see how fast that you can go once they start cutting rates. So we're start into the rate cutting cycle. We're still early in that, but once you start going, it's going to go pretty quickly. So the area I'll be looking at will be 120. 120 would be the zone that I would start unloading some, and then see if it'll hold or break. If it breaks, then it can go back up to like these 150 areas. So this is the where majority of the supply is up here. So if we do come back out of here, you can make a nice 50% on the move here. So I'm mostly investing in leap options with TLT. I don't really like holding this stock because it's quite slow and it's very boring stock. But with leap options, they're fairly cheap. You're paying about 10% premium for 2026. And if it actually goes up to this area right here, you could have 5 to 10 folds on the leap options. So it's actually quite good investment if you believe that we'll have very fast interest rate cuts in the future. So. Right. VIX is staying elevated. Is staying around 18, 18 and 22. Even though the stocks keep going up, the index keep going up, the VIX is staying elevated. That means trade with caution because of the obviously there's volatility and there's a lot of hedging going on. Usually when there's a lot of hedging going on, something's up, election most likely. So a lot of smart money start hedging their positions leading to election. So that's probably why the VIX is elevated. And then we may get a move after election. So we'll see. I was looking at the option chain for the VIX. It doesn't look like a lot of is anticipated for the election itself. But if you go like a month or two out, it seems like there's a lot more open interest around the December, January area. So there could be year-end corrective move, maybe selling before the year end, right? So I'll be looking around to see if that scenario actually works out. And that kind of lines up with the time frame for S&P 500 to hit that 6,200 as well. So I am looking at S&P 500 to hit around the 6,200 towards the end of the year. So we do hit that, and then the VIX contracts actually start rising sharply around that time. Then that could be a topping pattern, right? So we'll be looking more into that towards the end of the year and see what happens there. All right, let's take a look at some of the names. So for Bitcoin, we're in Mara mostly, and I'm also in MSTR. So MSTR is front running the Bitcoin market. So if MSTR already broken out, that's a good sign. That means that Bitcoin will break out pretty shortly. Hopefully this time around, it'll actually break out and not fake us out once again. Right. So we're looking towards that. So this I've been playing debit spreads mostly with MSTR. I also hold the shares. I've been selling puts on this thing in this chart for a couple months now. Maybe 3 or 4 months actually, 3 or 4 months because I haven't really sold my position. I sell strangles around it to collect the premium. But we also started adding like debit spreads when this got restacked before the breakout. So we did pretty good with the debit spreads. I made about 50 to 60% or so with some wide debit spreads for January and March expiration. So they're doing really, really well. And if this thing actually keeps going, we could go much higher, right? So the consolidation has been very, very long. For over a year, about a year, yeah, about a year almost. So I expect the parabolic move going to be quite strong as well. So you can see right here, the parabolic move can be quite rapid, right? So I'm looking at this thing, and I'm looking at like, geez, $400 as target on this thing, and if it goes, I'll mostly unload probably around that 300, and then I'll ride the rest. But yeah, this thing, once it gets going, because how long we consolidated, this thing can really, really fly. Like I'm looking at this thing, and 500 looks like a pretty good target to aim on the higher end. And 300 will be towards the lower end. So I'll be unloading at the 300 probably unload on the way up to 400 and then maybe ride a little bit towards 500. But usually I don't like to hold these things for too long because they tend to go parabolic up and parabolic down as well. I think the last time around they gave back about 60 or 70% of the profits if you didn't unload. So the smart thing would be unloading by scaling out towards the targets and trade them level per level. So I would use 3, 4, and 500 as levels. They're psychological levels. So I would use those as potential targets to aim for. So I'm gonna set an alert right here actually. So I'll be setting an alert around that 300 area. Um, so this will be target one. So if it hits this target, we'll be unloading half. And let's say it'll rise to say 350, maybe unload a little bit more. At 400, I'll unload 2/3, and then I'll leave 1/3 riding towards that 500 target, maybe. And then I'll get out as soon as the trend breaks, obviously. Right. So Mario's been underperforming a lot of the other stuff. I mean, this thing every single time I thought he was going to go, he didn't go. So I did make quite a bit of profits like on this pump right here. Um, and then I took half of off, I kept the other half. So I've been stuck in this range for a while now, and I've been selling strangles on this, so I didn't really lose any money, but I gave back a lot of the profits because I held on to half my position. But I mean, I still collecting premium, so you get some of that back, and basically my shares are free by now anyway. So whatever we make from here will be like pure profit. But you can see right here, it's basing, it's right at the resistance point. That 20 is a very big resistance level between 20 and 25 is where majority of supply is. 2023, sorry, is where majority of supply is. And then once it gets above that area, you're looking at back around the $30 range, right? So it's and once it gets around that 30, I think this time around you should break through it. And then I have a high target of this thing of like $80. So we go back up all the way back up to $80 or so from here. So if it does as a four bagger, if you own the shares, if you own options like I do, it could be a 20-30 bagger. So it could be insane if it actually does run. Um, and I do hold quite a bit of options for March and January. And I hold quite a bit of the shares as well. So if this thing actually goes, it's going to be my yearly maker. So yeah. So that's my biggest position in Bitcoin. I probably should have use some of that and put it more in MSTR. And also own a lot of BITX, which is the leverage one. This one, um, I had a big gain on it, and like I said, I took half off. I kept the other half. The other half is in the red now, but I've been selling premium as well, and the premium's been very juicy, so it paid for the other half. But I could have had a lot more profits that I just did the full exit. But like I said, with Bitcoin, if you get out fully and then it takes off, it's very, very hard to go back into it. That's why I kept half of my position on this as well. And the only thing you can do is just collect premium and then wait for the move. Because once you start going, it's going to go really, really fast. So once, say, Bitcoin breaks out, it's very likely BITX will go from like 30 here to 60 in literally like 2 or 3 weeks, or it'll be like under a month. You'll just double, right? So it's always good to have some invested. Just make sure that you're not fully invested when you're trading these, especially when they're just consolidating sideways like it is right now. Right, let's take a look at the megs. So Apple right here for me, it looks like it's consolidating at the top. It's forming somewhat of a flag pattern. All you have to do is draw the box, right? And you want to see if it break up the upper box or break the lower box. If it breaks the lower box, be very careful, because if Apple breaks down, everything going to go with it, because it's a very heavy weight on the index. But if Apple actually breaks out, then it's very likely that we're going to get the next leg up, which is around that. I would say just eyeing it without measuring, around 280, between 280 and 300, right? That'll be the target for Apple if it does break out here. Amazon just consolidating sideways like always does. So Amazon's been in like this zone for like almost 5 years now. Well, since 2020 top. So yeah, so you can see right here. It did break out of that high, but it's been chopping back and forth. So it didn't break and go. It kind of break and chop around. So that tells me like this could be a topping pattern. If it doesn't go, it could be a topping pattern, and then it could roll back over, right? If it rolls back over, is it's going to be like this, like where it tops, like distribution, and then it rolls over. So right now it looks like again in distribution. But if it does run, it needs to break that. I would look for breaking of 200 between 200 and 205 around there. This will be the zone I'll be looking at. It needs to break out of there. If it breaks out of there, then maybe I'll go for the next leg up. If you cannot break out of there, be prepared that it's going to roll over. If Amazon rolls over, like I said, you can pull the market down. A lot of these megs, they're all just consolidating sideways for quite a while now. So just keep an eye out on this. AVGO, Broadcom, also same thing. I just chopping around the top. It looks like distribution to me. So it's like a topping pattern. Google already roll over. It's kind of hovering around the breakout area from this. So it broken out, hit the target, and came all the way back down already. So it kind of front run the market, and then it came in, coming back, consolidate here. So watch this very carefully. If this rolls back over into the box, very likely the market will roll over as well. So like I said, all these mags right now, they're lagging compared to the rest of the index, right? Lily, same thing. Meta's the only one that's strong. Meta actually continued trending up. It was consolidating for a while in this box, and it actually broken out of the box, and it's just breaking out. So I'm looking for like a retest and then maybe a continuation if it actually keep going. So this is Meta's the only strong of the megs right now. Microsoft. This looks like a distribution to me. It looks kind of somewhat like a head and shoulders. And yeah, so you already hit the target after the cup, so it formed the cup actually quite early, and then if kind of front run the market, so now it's consolidating, it's looking like a topping pattern, so that could be a leading indicator as well, that a top is coming, right? So just keep a watch on this because sometimes if they don't break down, they just consolidate long enough, you'll restack, and then you'll continue higher. So just keep an eye out on this thing. If it goes below 400, then that could be a red flag to maybe start unloading your positions and take it easy, right? Netflix broken out, all-time highs broken out on earnings. So it's earnings breakout. So we'll see how this goes. It could be a gap and go, or it's going to gap and come back and fill the gap and actually roll over. Right. So just keep an eye out on Netflix. It's been a very, very strong trend up. Netflix is not really a name I like to trade. Uh it's more, it's one of the names that it's very speculative for a big name like Netflix. Plus they have a lot of competition. So it's not something that I really like uh holding or trading much. I usually just, if I'm gonna trade, I'm gonna trade like Microsoft or Nvidia, or I still like Tesla to trade for trade. So speaking of Nvidia, let's take a look at Nvidia. Again, top and pattern. Um, Looking for this breakout. If it breaks out, your next leg could be pretty good. If this breakout, we're looking at 180 to 200. That would be my target. 180 to 200, right around up here. If it doesn't break out and it start pulling back down, if it goes back down below the 120, it's very likely we'll go back to 100 after that. So, and then if it breaks below 100, that's game over for Nvidia. There'll be a distribution top, and then it's going to break down, then it's going to roll over. It's one of the names where once you start rolling over, start shorting it because um, they go out fast, they come down just as fast, if not faster. So, it would be a good name to short once the moves are all done. Tesla tried to break out a couple times now. You can see that it's forming like a cup and handle down here, and it finally fulfilled the cup. It came back, retest the breakout line, bounce off it. Now we come back again on the breakout line. If you actually bounce off here, it's actually pretty good. If you can reclaim, fill that gap, and keep going, reclaim 230, you can keep going, right? I have a target about 300 on this thing. If it goes parabolic, you might able to see 400 again. But I with these names, I just aim low until they actually officially broken out. So right now they're not broken out. They're still in this big giant value area, which is back and forth between this 150 and 300 zone. Right, 150, 250 is like a big distribution area. I mean, big value area where they fight over levels and stuff. So it's been going back and forth for a good part of the year already. So right now I'm kind of just looking for this to break above that 300. If you can break above 300, then you can really go. But if it reclaims 230, it's likely it's going to give 300 another test. I think that would be it for this video. So if you guys want to see what I'm doing with Bitcoin, when we're going to exit the trade, or if you guys want to see when we start going short on the market, or if we enter recessions or not, come join us. Join our Discord. Go to leecapitaltrading.com. Links in the description below. If you want to take your trading to the next level and learn how I trade, how I scalp, how I swing trade. So I have two different courses. I also have a small account course now. So if you're trading with a smaller account, we have a small account course where we talk about how to scalp options, day trading. And if you like swing trading, we also got swing trading course. So we've got a little bit of everything. And right now we're mostly trading the cycles. So if the market environment is good, we day trade and swing trade. If the market environment is bad, we do not swing trade, only day trade. So we do both, and you know, depending how the market behaves, we do different things, right? So if this is something you're interested, you know, let us know, contact us, try our courses, leecapitaltrading.com. We'll see you guys next time.